In the deepest chambers beneath the temple of Karnak, where the sacred ibises once nested in the shadows of eternity, there lived a young scribe named Kayemwaset, who served the god Anubis with unwavering devotion. His days were spent copying the sacred texts and maintaining the ritual implements. But his nights belonged to a mystery that would change not only his life, but the understanding of divine power itself. For it was Kayemwaset who first discovered the forbidden scrolls that spoke of the serpent fire, the cosmic force that the ancient Egyptians called the awakening of the god within. The discovery came during the season of Akhet, when the Nile's waters rose to bless the land with fertile silt. Kayemwaset had been tasked with cataloging the temple's most ancient archive scrolls, so old that their papyrus had turned the color of desert sand, and their hieroglyphs seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly light. As he carefully unrolled one particular manuscript, the young scribe felt a strange tingling sensation begin at the base of his spine, as if something long dormant was stirring to life within his very bones. The scroll bore the cartouche of Pharaoh Djoser and contained teachings that had been sealed away for over 2,000 years. The text spoke of a divine serpent that lay coiled at the base of every human spine, sleeping until awakened by those who possessed the sacred knowledge. This serpent, the scroll explained, was not merely symbolic, but represented an actual force of creation, the same power that had brought the universe into being and that continued to flow through all living things. Anubis himself had dictated these teachings to the first priests of his temple, revealing secrets that were considered too dangerous for ordinary mortals to comprehend. The god had explained that within every human being lay the potential for divine transformation, but that this potential remained locked away behind 7 sacred seals that could only be opened through specific practices and understanding. The serpent power known to the initiated as Uraeus, the same force represented by the cobra on the pharaoh's crown, was the key to unlocking these seals and achieving the ultimate goal of human existence, the transformation of mortal consciousness into divine awareness. As Kayemwaset continued reading, he learned that the ancient Egyptians had developed an elaborate system for awakening this serpent power safely and systematically. The process began with the purification of the physical body through specific dietary practices, breathing exercises, and ritual cleansings that prepared the nervous system for the tremendous energies that would soon flow through it. The priests understood that the human body was like a sacred vessel that needed to be properly prepared before it could contain the divine fire without being destroyed by its intensity. The first seal, located at the base of the spine in what the texts called the foundation of power, corresponded to the most basic aspects of human survival and material existence. Here the serpent lay in deepest slumber, coiled 3.5 times around a sacred lingam of light that represented the axis of creation itself. The awakening of this first seal required the practitioner to master their relationship with the physical world, not through rejection or denial, but through understanding that matter itself was simply crystallized consciousness, waiting to be transformed back into its original divine state. The second seal, positioned at the level of the reproductive organs, governed the creative and sexual energies that most humans experienced only in their grossest forms. The ancient texts revealed that sexual energy was actually a diluted version of the cosmic creative force, and that by learning to transmute and redirect this energy upward through the spine, practitioners could access levels of creative power that bordered on the miraculous. The priests of Anubis had developed specific techniques for this transmutation, involving complex breathing patterns, visualization exercises, and sacred movements that caused the serpent to begin its upward journey. The third seal, located at the solar plexus, was associated with personal power and the will to transform. Here, the serpent fire would encounter its first major test, as the practitioner had to learn to surrender their personal will to the divine will without losing their individual identity in the process. This was perhaps the most dangerous stage of the awakening process, as many practitioners became intoxicated with the sense of power they experienced and began to use their abilities for selfish purposes, rather than for the service of the divine plan. Khaimwaset discovered that the ancient texts contained detailed warnings about the dangers that awaited those who attempted to awaken the serpent power without proper preparation or guidance. The scrolls spoke of practitioners who had been driven mad by premature awakening, their nervous systems unable to handle the intensity of the divine fire. Others had become trapped in lower astral realms, their consciousness fragmented by energies they could not control or understand. Still others had developed what the texts called spiritual pride, becoming convinced of their own divinity while remaining trapped in the very ego structures they sought to transcend. The god Anubis had provided specific safeguards and practices to prevent these dangers, but the knowledge had been deliberately hidden from all but the most dedicated and pure-hearted seekers. The texts explained that the serpent power was not something to be awakened casually or for personal gain, but was a sacred trust that carried with it tremendous responsibility. Those who successfully awakened the divine fire became servants of cosmic evolution, their lives dedicated to assisting others in their own spiritual development and to maintaining the balance between the material and spiritual worlds. As the young scribe continued his study of the forbidden texts, he began to experience the first stirrings of the serpent power within his own body. The tingling sensation at the base of his spine grew stronger, accompanied by waves of heat that seemed to rise up through his torso and into his head. His dreams became vivid and prophetic, filled with images of ancient temples, cosmic geometries, and beings of light who spoke to him in languages he had never learned, but somehow understood perfectly. The fourth seal, positioned at the heart center, represented the transformation of human love into divine compassion. Here the serpent fire would purify the emotional body, burning away all traces of selfishness, jealousy, and conditional love, while awakening the practitioner to the universal love that connected all beings. The texts described this stage as both ecstatic and terrifying, as the individual ego began to dissolve into the greater cosmic consciousness, while still maintaining enough coherence to function in the physical world. The fifth seal, located at the throat, governed communication and the power of the spoken word. When the serpent fire reached this level, practitioners gained the ability to speak with divine authority, their words carrying the power to heal, transform, and even manifest physical changes in the material world. The ancient priests who had mastered this level were said to be able to command the elements, communicate with animals and plants, and transmit knowledge directly from mind to mind without the need for spoken language. The sixth seal, positioned between the eyebrows at the location of what later traditions would call the third eye, represented the awakening of divine vision and cosmic consciousness. Here the serpent fire would activate dormant areas of the brain, allowing the practitioner to perceive multiple dimensions of reality simultaneously and to access the Akashic records, the cosmic library that contained all knowledge and experience throughout time. Those who reached this level were no longer bound by the limitations of ordinary human perception and could see the divine plan unfolding across vast spans of time and space. The seventh and final seal, located at the crown of the head, represented the complete union of individual consciousness with cosmic consciousness. When the serpent fire reached this ultimate destination, the practitioner achieved what the texts called the resurrection of the light body, a state of being in which they became living gods, capable of existing simultaneously in multiple dimensions and serving as bridges between the human and divine realms. The revelations Kamwaset uncovered in the Forbidden Scrolls did not remain confined to the temple's shadowed archives. Each night, as he practiced the breathing and visualization techniques described in the ancient texts, he felt the serpent energy rise a little higher within him. The sensations grew more intense and complex. A subtle vibration in his bones, a gentle pressure at the base of his skull, and a growing sense that his thoughts were no longer entirely his own, but part of a vast interconnected web of consciousness. He noticed changes in his daily life as well. His senses became sharper. Colors seemed more vivid, sounds more resonant, and even the air itself felt charged with hidden meaning. He found himself able to sense the moods and intentions of others before they spoke, and sometimes he would know what was about to happen moments before it did. These abilities, the scrolls explained, were natural consequences of the serpent power's ascent, as the practitioner's nervous system became attuned to the subtle energies that flowed through all creation. One night, as the moon hung low and red over the Nile, Kamwaset experienced a vision unlike any he had known before. In his dream, Anubis appeared not as a distant god, but as a presence so immediate that the air itself seemed to vibrate with his power. The jackal-headed guide led him through a series of luminous gates, each guarded by a different aspect of the serpent wisdom: courage, compassion, discipline, surrender, vision, and unity. At each gate, Kamwaset was tested not with riddles or threats, but with opportunities to face his own fears, desires, and attachments. The first gate, wisdom, required him to look honestly at his own ignorance and to admit the limits of his knowledge. The second, courage, demanded that he confront memories he had long buried, feeling the pain and shame without running away. At the gate of compassion, he was shown every moment he had hurt others, intentionally or not, and asked to forgive both himself and those who had wounded him. Discipline forced him to examine his habits and attachments. Surrender challenged him to let go of control. Vision opened his inner sight to the interconnectedness of all things, and unity dissolved the last remnants of his separate self into the ocean of divine consciousness. When he awoke, Kemwaset felt the serpent energy pulsing at his heart center a living fire that radiated both warmth and peace. He understood now that the awakening of Kundalini was not a single event, but a journey, a gradual unfolding that required humility, patience, and unwavering dedication. The scrolls had warned that those who sought shortcuts or tried to force the process would only invite suffering and confusion. True awakening, Anubis had whispered in the dream, was a gift, granted only to those who surrendered fully to the path. As the serpent fire continued its ascent, Kemwaset noticed profound changes in his relationships and his sense of purpose. He became a source of calm and inspiration to those around him, and even the high priests began to seek his counsel. He found that he could heal minor illnesses with a touch, soothe troubled minds with a word, and sometimes in moments of deep meditation, travel beyond the boundaries of his physical body to distant places and times. The ancient texts described these abilities as natural expressions of the awakened serpent, not as supernatural powers, but as the birthright of every human being. The scrolls explained that Kundalini was the original life force that animated all creation, and that its awakening restored the practitioner to their true role as a co-creator with the divine. The more Kemwaset surrendered to this force, the more he realized that his own desires and ambitions were dissolving, replaced by a profound sense of service and unity with all life. Yet the journey was not without its challenges. The scrolls warned that as the serpent fire rose, it would bring to the surface every unresolved emotion, every hidden fear, and every shadow of the ego. There were nights when Kemwaset felt overwhelmed by waves of grief, anger, or longing emotions he thought he had left behind. But each time he faced these feelings with honesty and compassion, the energy would rise higher, burning away the old patterns and leaving him lighter and more free. The priests of Anubis had developed rituals to support practitioners during these difficult phases. Sacred baths, incense chanting, and the use of specific stones and amulets helped to stabilize the energy and protect the nervous system. The scrolls emphasized the importance of community and guidance, warning that isolation could lead to confusion or even madness. In the temple, initiates supported one another, sharing their experiences and insights, and reminding each other that the path, though solitary in its deepest moments, was never meant to be walked alone. As the serpent energy reached the throat center, Kemwaset found his voice transformed. His words carried a resonance that seemed to bypass the mind and speak directly to the heart. He could calm disputes, inspire courage, and awaken hope with a single phrase. The scrolls explained that at this level, the practitioner became a living channel for divine truth, able to transmit wisdom not only through words, but through presence alone. The ascent continued, and with it came visions of the future and the past, glimpses of other lives and other worlds. Kemwaset saw himself as a priest in Atlantis, a healer in ancient India, a sage in forgotten lands, where the serpent was worshipped as the mother of all creation. He understood now that Kundalini was not unique to Egypt, but a universal force known by many names: Shakti in India, Shekinah in the Hebrew mysteries, the Holy Spirit in early Christianity, and the dragon's breath in the legends of the Far East. The scrolls described the final stages of awakening as both the most blissful and the most perilous. At the brow center, the practitioner's vision expanded beyond the limits of time and space. The world became a web of living light, every being a facet of the one consciousness, playing out countless roles in the cosmic drama. The sense of separation dissolved, replaced by a direct knowing of unity with all that is. At the crown, the serpent completed its journey, merging with the divine source and flooding the practitioner with a light so pure that it erased all memory of suffering and fear. For a moment, Kemwaset experienced himself as both the drop and the ocean, the question and the answer, the seeker and the sought. He understood that the true purpose of Kundalini was not power or knowledge, but the awakening of love, the realization that to serve others was to serve the divine within oneself. As he returned to ordinary awareness, Kemwaset wept tears of gratitude. The journey had not ended, but had only just begun. He knew now that the awakening of Kundalini was the greatest gift and the greatest responsibility, a call to live as a bridge between heaven and earth, to embody the divine in every thought, word, and deed. As Kemwaset's awakening deepened, the boundaries between the worlds grew thinner. He found himself drifting between waking and dreaming, his consciousness expanding far beyond the temple walls. The serpent fire within him was now a living presence, guiding his every thought and action, illuminating the hidden currents of destiny that shaped his life and the lives of all those around him. He began to see the secret workings of the universe in every event, every encounter, every challenge. The teachings of Anubis echoed in his heart, as above, so below. As within, so without. The ancient god had revealed that the journey of Kundalini was not only a personal transformation, but a cosmic one. Each soul who awakened the serpent power contributed to the healing and evolution of the entire world. Kemwaset saw that every human being carried the spark of divinity within them, waiting to be awakened. He realized that suffering, ignorance, and conflict were the result of forgetting this inner light. The serpent fire was the medicine, the sacred force that could heal the wounds of separation and restore the world to harmony. The scrolls spoke of a time when the serpent would awaken in many, and a new age of peace and wisdom would dawn upon the earth. He became a teacher, though he claimed no title and wore no special robes. Those who were ready found their way to him, drawn by the quiet radiance of his presence. He shared the ancient practices with humility and care, always reminding his students that the path was not about acquiring power, but about surrendering to love. He taught them to honor the body as a temple, to purify the mind with truth, and to open the heart to compassion for all beings. The temple community flourished under his gentle guidance. The priests and scribes who once argued over doctrine now sat together in silent meditation, feeling the serpent fire rise within them. The sick were healed, the grieving comforted, and even the animals of the temple grounds seemed to sense the change, gathering quietly in the moonlight, as if listening to an invisible song. Yet Kemwaset knew that the path was not without danger. Some who sought the serpent power did so out of pride or curiosity, and found themselves overwhelmed by the energies they had unleashed. Others became lost in visions and powers, forgetting the humility and service that were the true marks of awakening. The ancient scrolls had warned of these pitfalls, and Anubis had taught that only those who walked the path with pure hearts and clear minds could safely reach the summit. To guide his students, Kayamwaset developed a set of simple principles drawn from the wisdom of the Forbidden Scrolls and his own experience. He taught that the serpent fire was awakened not by force, but by surrender, not by ambition, but by devotion. He reminded them that every challenge was an opportunity for growth, every setback a lesson in patience and trust. He encouraged them to support one another, to share their struggles and victories, and to remember that the journey was unique for each soul. As the years passed, word of the awakened community spread throughout Egypt and beyond. Seekers came from distant lands, bringing with them new questions and ancient wisdom from their own traditions. Kamwaset welcomed them all, recognizing that the serpent power was a universal force, known by many names and awakened through many paths. Together they created a living tapestry of spiritual practice, weaving together the threads of Egypt, India, Greece, and the farthest reaches of the known world. In his meditations, Kamwaset saw visions of the future, a time when the serpent would rise in every land, awakening humanity to its true potential. He saw cities of light, where people lived in harmony with nature and with one another, guided by the wisdom of the awakened heart. He saw temples of learning and healing, where the secrets of the serpent were shared freely with all who sought them. He saw a world transformed not by conquest or dogma, but by the gentle power of love awakened in every soul. But he also saw the challenges that lay ahead. He saw forces of ignorance and fear rising to resist the awakening, seeking to keep humanity asleep and divided. He saw the dangers of misuse and misunderstanding, the temptation to use the serpent power for personal gain or control. He knew that the path would require courage, wisdom, and vigilance, and that each generation would face its own tests and trials. Still, he remained hopeful, for he had seen in the depths of his own being the indestructible light that dwelled within every heart. He knew that the serpent power could never be destroyed, only forgotten or misused. He trusted in the wisdom of Anubis, who had guided him through the gates of transformation and shown him the way home. As he grew older, Kamwaset began to prepare his students for the time when he would leave the physical world. He taught them to rely not on his presence, but on the inner guidance of the serpent fire. He encouraged them to become teachers in their own right, to share the forbidden secrets with all who were ready, and to trust in the unfolding of the divine plan. He reminded them that the journey of Kundalini was endless, a spiral of awakening that led ever deeper into the heart of the mystery. He told them that the true sign of awakening was not visions or powers, but the capacity to love without condition, to serve without expectation, and to see the divine in every face. The final years of Kamwaset's life unfolded in a gentle radiance, as if the boundaries between his soul and the world had grown translucent. The serpent fire, once a mysterious force that had surged and coiled within him, now flowed like a calm river, steady and luminous, connecting him to all that lived and breathed. He moved through the temple gardens with a quiet grace, blessing the earth with every step, his presence a living testament to the power and peace that awakening could bring. He gathered his closest students beneath the sacred sycamore, the tree of Hathor, where the ibis birds nested, and the river breeze carried the scent of lotus and myrrh. Here he spoke not of secrets and powers, but of simplicity and surrender. The serpent is not to be conquered. He said, his voice soft as the Nile at dawn, but befriended. She is the mother of all life, the bridge between earth and sky. When you honor her, you honor the divine within yourself and all creation. Kayamwaset reminded his students that the journey of Kundalini was not a race to the summit, but a spiral that returned again and again to the heart. He taught that awakening was not a single event, but a living relationship, an endless dance of rising and falling, forgetting and remembering, giving and receiving. Each breath, each moment, was an opportunity to listen more deeply, to love more fully, to serve more humbly. He urged them to walk among the people to bring the light of the serpent fire into the marketplaces and fields, the homes of the humble and the halls of the mighty. Do not hide your light, he counseled, but let it shine in small acts of kindness, in words that heal, in hands that comfort. The true miracle is not to walk on water, but to bring peace where there is strife, hope where there is despair, and unity where there is division. As the day of his passing approached, Kayamwaset gathered his students for one final teaching. He spoke of the cycles of life and death, of the soul's journey through many forms and many worlds. He revealed that the serpent fire was the thread that wove all these lives together, the memory of the divine that could never be lost. When you awaken, he said, you remember not only who you are, but who you have always been, an immortal spark of the great flame, a child of the stars, a vessel for the love that holds the universe together. He blessed each student, placing his hand upon their brow and whispering words of power that awakened the memory of their own divinity. He reminded them that Anubis, the great guardian, walked always at their side, guiding them through the gates of transformation and into the arms of the eternal. He asked them to promise that they would carry the teachings forward, not as dogma, but as living wisdom, ever open, ever evolving, ever rooted in love. On the night of his transition, the temple was filled with a gentle golden light. The priests and students gathered in silent meditation, feeling the presence of the serpent fire weaving through their hearts. Kayamwaset lay beneath the sycamore, his breath slow and peaceful, his face radiant with joy. As his final breath left his body, a soft wind stirred the leaves, and those present felt a wave of warmth and bliss rise within them, as if the serpent herself had blessed them all. In the days and years that followed, the teachings of Kayamwaset spread across the land and beyond. His students became teachers, healers, and guides, sharing the forbidden secrets of Kundalini with all who were ready. The serpent fire awakened in many, and a new age of wisdom and compassion began to dawn. The temples of Anubis flourished not as places of fear and judgment, but as sanctuaries of transformation and love. The story of Kayamwaset became legend, a tale told by firesides, and in the quiet moments before dawn, a reminder that the divine lives within every heart, waiting to be awakened by the gentle touch of truth. The forbidden secrets of Kundalini were no longer hidden, but lived and breathed in the actions of those who walked the path with humility and courage. And so the ancient serpent continues her dance, rising and falling in every soul, weaving the tapestry of creation with threads of light. The journey is never finished, for awakening is eternal, a spiral that leads ever deeper into the mystery, ever higher into the light. The legacy of Anubis and the wisdom of the serpent endure, whispering, "To all who seek, awaken, beloved." Remember who you are. The divine sleeps within you, waiting for your gentle touch.